So as the Jesuit volunteer, my position here at the center is only a year long. However, the reason that I chose to work at the Public Justice Center is because I think that the issue is so important, and I think that the work they do is so interesting in the sense that it really does attack the problem at several different angles. What I really love about the program is that we do individual advocacy. So we go in and we meet with people, which really, puts a face to a problem that's often, as Tanisha referred to, as invisible. But also that through the class action lawsuit, we're able to work towards systemic change, which I think is so very important. Personally, I think that this project has really impacted me thus far because of the face, just knowing that this is someone's child, this is someone's brother, this is someone's sister, their mother, understanding that these are human beings much like myself, and we have actually, many similarities, that are in these situations that are terrible, terrible situations and awful conditions to be living in, and nothing that I would ever want to subject another person to. And so I think that the population that we're working with is not a popular one. It's not, when people talk about prisoners, you don't get the warm fuzzies, and so I think that it's often a population that is overlooked, unfortunately, but really needs someone to make room for their voice to be heard.
Can you tell a little bit about how they find out about your organization in assistance and advocacy?
Sure. Maybe mention inmate council.
You can edit that out.
No, we can't.
Usually there's an inmate council at the jail. There's a women's inmate council and there's a men's inmate council. It's compiled of people who live there, people who are detained there, and they make up a board and then dorm representatives. And they basically represent the voice of the entire population. So they meet every Thursday, and we go to those meetings, and we've developed a relationship with the inmate councils so that our advocacy efforts are being shared amongst the population as a whole. So when someone has an issue, it's communicated through the grapevine, and sometimes we find out that way. We've got a form that they're able to fill out and send to us, or give to us at an inmate council meeting. We also get phone calls from parents who've seen our website, or possibly heard about us through someone who was being detained. The city council refers us people as well, and so there's a variety of different ways that we're able to get out what we're doing here.
Are there the same issues with juveniles? Because the juveniles aren't in the same detention center, are they?
It's interesting. There are a few different issues that the juveniles face, and we're actually trying to address those as well. And there are some juveniles who are being held at the Baltimore City Detention Center, to which sometimes they have some medical issues, and when they do arise, we're able to go in and see them. But I think that Wendy could speak more to the juvenile aspect.
Let me interject it. It's important here too that one reason we're able to get into the jail like this is because we're doing legal visits.
Mm-hmm.
This lawsuit that we have with the ACLU means that we actually are the representatives, the legal representatives of all of the inmates at the Baltimore City Detention Center. So when any of them basically ask to speak with their lawyer, we have the right to go in, and it would be much more difficult, frankly, if we were not lawyers. It's actually harder for family and friends to visit than it is us. So lawyers and paralegals working under their supervision get access to the jail in ways that others don't, and we're able to frankly use that to be able to see a lot more and have a lot more contact than any other organization does.
I wanted to answer your question about how the medical care functions, and just to say that the reason that these people are entitled to medical care is, the Constitution and the United States Supreme Court have said if you hold somebody against their will, you have to make sure they have access to basic medical care, because they can't get up and go to the emergency room or the family doctor or even to the drugstore. So they are, to dispense medications. Usually the person has to go and get them from a dispensary, or a nurse might deliver them to a unit. Most of the ones, most of them they can't keep with them because of the fear of, if they're, for example, pain medications or things like that, they don't want those out in the population. And there are doctors and nurses and physician's assistants that work for a private for-profit company that the state contracts with that are in the jail providing care. If somebody had an emergency, they would be taken to an outside hospital if they can't take care of it there. So that's how it is supposed to function. If people need care or want it, they're supposed to file what's called a sick call slip and submit it. And that's been a very big problem, is that people submit them and they just aren't responded to at all, or for weeks, or, it's not uncommon to meet people who say they've submitted 5 sick call slips for an issue. And one thing to mention too, that occurs to me, we talk about how it's an insulated environment in terms of information getting out, but it's not insulated in terms of the impacts of medical care access. We talked about staph infection and other, there are other contagious illnesses too that not only impact the detainees, but also the correctional staff working in the facility, the attorneys going in to meet with people in the facility, the family members, and a lot of these people are released back into the community. So it's, it's a public health crisis basically, and the fact that people's healthcare is worsening when they get out is also, just as a personal matter, making it that much harder for them to have a stabilized life. So it's definitely, I think, an impact on whether people might be more likely to be caught back up in the system again.
Is this program unique to Baltimore, or are there other programs like this in other states?
There are people doing prisoners' rights work. I don't know if there's one in particular sort of working on, one local detention center like this. There may well be. It's we have a listserv of advocates, and they're few in number. It's not the most popular or fundable issue, which makes it hard, I think, for some people to take it on. And I mentioned the legal services limitations, which makes it hard for the folks who ordinarily would be providing services to poor people to do that.
Are there other organizations that you have alliances or partnerships with in terms of supporting these people?
Oh yeah, I think the problem is so big that coordinating with lots of people is really important. So we certainly have worked a lot with the Public Defender's Office, who is in there and knows what their clients' needs are. We've worked a lot with the public health community. It's great to have Hopkins in our backyard, and the School of Public Health has been really crucial to, I think, helping us volunteer, but also, helping us to highlight that aspect of this problem. I'm sure there are others.
Yeah.
Lots of others.
I'm thinking one point, just to go back a little bit, that is so obvious to us, but it perhaps isn't as we were talking, is that when someone is arrested, the police take away any medications, prescription medications that they have. So when they go into the jail, they may have asthma, have an inhaler, they may have diabetes medicine. It's confiscated. Now, the way it should work is that the jail would immediately re-prescribe or give them the medication back. But one of the biggest problems we have is that doesn't happen in a very short time. And particularly for chronic illnesses, people can go into a crisis state, within a day or two, oftentimes, without psychotropic medication. Diabetes, you can't go without insulin. There are medications you absolutely need, and kind of the basic level of work we're doing oftentimes is just to get that re-prescribed and get it back to the prisoners, and that's difficult enough. And then, of course, if there's a crisis situation in the jail, Wendy said that, theoretically they should be taking people to emergency rooms and hospitals outside, but they don't respond to sick calls very well. So whether the crisis situation is recognized in a timely manner and responded to appropriately is another big issue that we deal with regularly.